1230 The Buzz of Cincinnati.
Let's get it started in here.
And the bass keeps running, running, and 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 running.
Friends, fellow Cincinnatians, listeners around the world, welcome to Talk of the Town with PG Sittenfeld. I'm your host, PG Sittenfeld. Who is going to be the talk of the town today? Give us a call, 513-749-1230. You already knew that number. I am your Cincinnati City Councilman for the next hour, just here to be part of the conversation. We have a great show for you today. As I always am, joined in studio right here at Radio 1 by my co-pilot, the one and only, Tamaya Denard. What's going on, Tamaya?
I am enjoying this beautiful day.
Oh, it's so nice, so refreshing.
I need to shout out everybody who went to the Ricky Smiley comedy concert last night at the Air Knopf.
You said it was great, right?
It was awesome. I was laughing till my stomach hurt, and I saw Councilmember Winburn and Judge Allen, Chief Craig. We had a lot of dignitaries in the building, but it was awesome. All
the luminaries were coming out.
Yep.
We also, as we're getting started, we need to say happy 100th anniversary to the Avondale Branch Public Library.
Absolutely.
We were there earlier today with Mayor Mark Mallory, with Councilman Wendell Young, and others. So happy kudos to the neighborhood of Avondale and their library turning 100 years old today. We, of course, want to give a shout-out to our show sponsor, Celebrities, at its 7617 Reading Road. I start getting a little itchy every once in a while. I'm thinking something's just not quite right. It's because I haven't been to Celebrities soon enough. I need to get my fix.
Yes,
so
you do.
Let's get that on the calendar very soon. We want to talk about today, obviously plenty going on in the news, but today's show is going to be about the rules of public life. How we treat people in the public eye. How should we treat people in the public eye? We're going to have two people who are able to share a lot of their perspective on that, given their sort of high-profile existence. Former Cincinnati Congressman, Mayor, and news anchor Charlie Luken. And then later in the show, no stranger here at the Buzz, the Emperor of the Buzz, Mr. Lincoln Ware himself, who our producer, always got to give shout out to our producer, Terrence. Terrence had some very choice words for Lincoln. I don't know what the sort of power hierarchy here at the Buzz is, but Terrence was just letting it rip. So Lincoln, if you're already listening, feel free to fire back at Terrence. But I do want to say, before we get to former Congressman, Mayor, and news anchor Charlie Luken, what sort of got me thinking about this. Several weeks ago, I was very surprised when, there was, and I think that the media was probably overdoing it, but they were talking about, well, might Chief Craig leave, after 2 years, Detroit's his hometown. And I was thinking to myself, and people know, I believe they know, I'm a pretty unabashed supporter of Chief Craig. I think he's done a great job. The police officers love him. Citizens love him. He goes everywhere. But as with anybody, there have been some haters. And it did sort of, I feel like a lot of people think, well, if someone's in public life, I can treat them however I want to treat them. And maybe that's true, and maybe it's not true. But I think what we all need to be mindful of is there are consequences, right? So is the cumulative effect of how we treat people who are in public life, in the public eye, whether it's politics, media, all sorts of other perches, that fewer people want to sort of pursue a life of public impact over time. So those are the questions I've got in my mind. Again, the phone number, 749-1230. Join the conversation. And let us now go to the Honorable Charlie Luken. Charlie, welcome to Talk of the Town.
Thanks, PG. Nice to be back on the Buzz. I'm not sure I'm honorable anymore. But
you were once honorable.
I'm not sure I ever was, but I appreciate it.
Once honorable, always honorable. Let me ask you this.
I was honorable for about an hour.
No, much longer than that. Look, everyone knows, the Lukens have sort of been Cincinnati's Kennedys. Did you know growing up that you might sort of want to, or did you think you might want to, have a life that was in the public eye, to sort of have an audience, that politics was going to be a path you wanted to pursue?
Yeah, PG, my family kind of grew up. I remember I was 9 years old, and my dad sent me door to door for John Kennedy in Madeira, and a guy was burning leaves. In those days, you could burn your leaves outdoors, and he took my big stack of Kennedy pamphlets, and he threw them in his burning leaves. So
Madeira was conservative even then,
the harshness of politics at a very early age.
Right. But since you were around it at an early age, obviously your father, a congressman, you later went on to be a congressman, the sort of public side of it, did that seem appealing? Did it seem sort of strange? What was your reaction as a young child to that?
Well, I would see it. I would see people interact with my father and my uncle, who is deceased, and he was the mayor for a while.
Right.
And he was a great labor leader in Cincinnati. But I see it, and I didn't know if it was for me, but I've always kind of wanted to follow in those footsteps. of first I wanted to be a lawyer. I thought about being a criminal defense trial lawyer for a while, but politics got the best of me, and I can't say I ever sat down and made a conscious decision. It just seemed like the way I was supposed to go.
Now, let me ask you this. Do you think, because you obviously went on to spend a whole lot of time in the public eye as a very young mayor of the city of Cincinnati, mayor later on in your life, congressman between then, you spent a lot of time at as a news anchor at the news desk on television. Do you think, how do you think sort of being in the public eye changed you? Does it make a person more outgoing? Does it make you more guarded? In what ways does it change you?
PG, you experience it. I think it depends on the situation. I've always found I never considered myself much of a celebrity and tried to not act like one. And I think, when I was the mayor, people would call me Charlie more than they'd call me Mayor.
Right.
And I think that was just because of the way I handled it. I don't think that's necessarily better, but I think it's just a function of one's own personality. I do have to say there are times when controversy strikes, and I know you've experienced it, when if you are completely unguarded and open, it can be challenging to be out in public when people will get in your face, and that's part of it. But my rule always was you can say whatever you want to me as long as you're not rude or name-calling of those things, and then I walk away.
Well, we would hope that those are the rules. And again, this is sort of what I was thinking about it. And, I think a lot of the folks that have been hard on Police Chief James Craig probably don't even live in the city of Cincinnati. But, that so often there's this expectation of, well, you signed up for this job or that job, so I get to, treat you however I want sort of thing. Which,
well, I would just observe, and I think you did a little bit at the beginning of the show, that Chief Craig, I might be flattering myself, but he kind of has the same kind of way of dealing with it as I do. He seems to go places and talk to people and face the music, and I'm a fan of him as you are, but I think his approach to the job is similar to the way I handle it. And Cincinnati's a pretty nice place to be a recognizable figure in, because people generally, with a few exceptions, are pretty respectful and kind.
No, I would certainly agree with that.
I would like to know, what's your attitude toward interacting with strangers, and has it evolved any since being in the public eye?
Well, my attitude is anybody's allowed to say whatever, as they say, whatever they want, as long as they're not, when you get a real tough issue, and I've had a few in my life, and I know PG has, and certainly you've had a lot of people on the buzz who had tough issues. When you got a real tough issue, sometimes people, every once in a while you run into somebody who thinks they can say whatever they want. And I think what's evolved is that I am a little more guarded. I always kind of listen more carefully to the first question or the first comment to try to get a feeling of what's behind it.
Right.
And sometimes you want to be a little bit careful, and sometimes you just have to walk away. I've found myself where somebody can make you mad. I've got a bit of a temper on me, and people can make you mad, and you really, really don't want to show that.
Now, tell me if I'm getting this story wrong, but sort of to Tamaya's question about, obviously, when you are the mayor of a city, when you are the anchor of the news station, strangers will come up to you all the time. So tell me if I'm imagining that you once told me this story, Charlie, that you were, I think, in the grocery store, someone came up to you and was like, and to your point, they weren't like, oh, the Honorable Mayor Luken. They were like, oh, hey, Charlie. You didn't know them. But they're like, hey, Charlie, would love for you to come over for dinner. It was a stranger, and that you ended up going over to their house for dinner sometime later.
Yeah, I would do that, and would do that quietly. I always thought that was if you had the time, PG, and I know.
Unfortunately, no one's inviting me for dinner. I'd love a good tasty home cooked meal.
Well, it's a good way to get a feel of to bring yourself back down to reality. Sometimes I think getting to Maya's question, I think sometimes we live in this fishbowl and we forget about the people that are out there working every day and the families. And so that's true. That somebody invited me to dinner and I went, and I can't say that's the only time I did that, but I think it's a good way to stay in touch with people.
No, I think there's no question. One of my observations.
It's hard to do.
I think politicians seem, in my own observation, to take a quick, turn for the worse when they lose touch with the people that they're serving, when they, spend too much time in City Hall, not enough time in the neighborhood.
I just want to add they probably haven't invited you, PG, because they've heard about your appetite.
They know how much I eat. It'll bankrupt their family budget. That's right.
They can't afford it, PG. Yeah.
I wanted to ask because you've had very high profile perches in sort of very different capacities. You've been a high profile politician, but then you also spent, you refreshed me on how many years as the news anchor. How did those sort of, compare as different forms of spotlight to you? And how did it change how people reacted to you?
Well, I think when you're on the news, as I was for 8 years, and I had a very good co-anchor, so she kind of carried me, Norma Rashid, But I think I'll walk down the street, and sometimes people, even today, will just stop, and they'll go, "You're the newsman."
Do they say it like that?
Surprised when people recognize me as a newsman, because I spent so many more years in the political life. But I think what people are saying when they see me like that is, "I've seen you somewhere. I'm not sure where," because I haven't been in elective office now for almost 8 years, so.
This might be kind of a goofy question, but now you've got me curious. Do you think more people recognized you and your sort of like reach was broader and you're more well known for being a news anchor or for being repeat mayor of the city?
I think people get that facial impression from the news,
right? Just being on TV,
certainly reaffirmed with the political stuff. And what's happening to me now, it's kind of funny, is because I had somebody today, I bought something at a store and they wanted my name, and she's the woman behind the counter who was obviously under 35 said, "What's your name?" I said, "My name's Charlie Luken." She said, "How do you spell that?"
Easy come, easy go, man.
Jerry Springer said to me once, "I don't know what's going to happen to us when the lights go out, but I can feel them getting dimmer and dimmer." And I don't know how. I mean, I have to tell you, after, for 20-some plus years, I was in that light, and now as it fades, sometimes it's not the easiest thing. You say, "What's it like when people react to you?" Well,
what's it like when they don't react?
As long as they did to me, I'm kind of wondering what happens when people stop.
Oh, we still know who you are. Well, Charlie, we hope you can stick around for a little bit of the next segment. We're going to go pay some bills here. You are listening to Talk of the Town on 1230 The Buzz of Cincinnati.
We're all talk. 1230.
Welcome back to Talk of the Town with PG Sittenfeld. So glad you are spending some of your Saturday afternoon with us right here on 1230 The Buzz. And during break, Tamaya told me, and we will be able to settle this in the next segment, that I try and sound like Lincoln Ware going out of breaks. And if that were the case, I think I'd be dropping a lot more. Unbelievable. Yeah. Unbelievable. I'm listening, Lincoln. That's right. Lincoln is actually in the producer's studio right now. The emperor, the king of the buzz, will be with us starting in the next segment to talk about his life in the public eye. And I think no one doesn't know who Lincoln Ware is. But for the time being, we go back to the still honorable Charlie Luken and T.
I know who Lincoln Ware is.
Everyone knows who Lincoln Ware is.
Yes, we had many a session together, and hopefully we'll have some more.
Well, Charlie, just to put you at ease from your last point, the lights have not gone out on Charlie Luken just yet, nor Jerry Springer.
Absolutely not. A quick story. We had some kids last summer, a summer camp, summer enrichment camp. All the kids were under 14, and we were showing them the pictures on the wall of all the mayors, and they were looking at the one picture they were honing in on, and it was a guy named Gerald Springer, and the kids all started going, Jerry, right in the mayor's office, which is pretty hilarious.
Which is funny, because sometimes they chant Jerry in council chambers, too, when things get a little unruly and the bodyguards need to start carrying people.
I'm interested in Mr. Luken and find out, what's your least favorite part of being a well-known figure?
Well, that's a tough one. I mean, I don't really, I think that you make sacrifices when you, and anybody that does it knows what I'm about to say. You make sacrifices to family and to your time, and sometimes, I could tell you there are days when you have to go to some chicken dinner, and you'd rather be boiled in oil.
Terrence's eyes just lit up when you said chicken dinner, though. Actually, he said that's your least favorite part of being a public official.
Yeah, you don't want to go out and listen to the speeches more than the dinner. You just kind of don't want to spend your evening till 9 or 10 o'clock. So I would say the sacrifice of time. But I that's